Bom dia, Portugal!
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GuMPer morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GuMPer.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, GuMPers.
Hola, bon dia, alegria. Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show, a live stream and podcast. Forgive me for being a little bit late. I mean, that's not unusual, is it? Let's face it, but later than usual, later than normal here on the Good Morning Portugal show. I was actually responding to some friends in the community here who lost loved ones this morning, just responding with messages of condolence and support. Lots of love to you, Lonnie, up in Porto, in the north of Portugal. And for those of you who came to the or have been to the San Martino de Porto meetup here on the Silver Coast, I heard the sad news yesterday from Ronnie Barker, Carpe Diem, that we lost Irish Pete. Some of the regulars at the San Martino de Porto meetup will remember Pete, who I remember him because I was in a car park, a Pingados car park in Turkel, and I saw a couple of people there, and I immediately heard an Irish accent asking me, "Are you the fella from YouTube?" Excuse me. And sat and had a cup of coffee started talking, and then said, "Let's grab a coffee," and started chatting with Pete. I always like to have a chat. And Isabel, his wife, who's been in touch with me this morning. Pete became ill, I think, a few days ago only. She sent me a message to say that he'd passed away last Saturday. He got pneumonia, sadly, and the funeral is in Leiria this morning at 11 o'clock. If you know him, if you've just heard that news, if you knew him and you wanted to go along to the funeral, it is 11 o'clock this morning in Leiria. Do send me a message, and I can respond to you about that. So, Isabel, lots of love to you. We'll do our best to support you, obviously. And it was very sad to hear of the passing of. I only know him as Irish Pete, and in a way, I think that's rather nice. That's affectionately known as Irish Pete in our community at the SNDP meetup. So lots of love to you, Isabel. And I hope it goes as well as these things possibly can later on this morning. I'm going to have a big cough. Excuse me. All right, forgive me. So yeah, slightly sad start, or very sad start to the live stream this morning. Hope you're well. Life does go on, and we must honour, of course, those people who we lose in our community, and perhaps as importantly, support those their loved ones and relatives here in Portugal, because I think it's especially difficult and challenging and sad when you come here with a loved one and you lose them, and you're in a foreign country and you're having to deal with all sorts of extra added dimensions to what is, in any case, a very sad and difficult situation. So we'll do our best always to support anyone who finds themselves in that place, which inevitably happens, of course, as well. So life goes on, onward then. And we will be talking to Owen at 9 o'clock this morning. It's hump day, and we will be taking questions on anything to do with Portuguese food and wine. And I don't want to put the emphasis or responsibility entirely on Owen to answer all those questions. As usual, this is a team effort with the GuMPers here. And Owen had some excellent questions for you. We of course continue with our classic foodie favorites here in Portugal. What are your favorites? What have you been meaning to try? And maybe Christmas gave you the opportunity to try it. What indeed was the best meal you tasted over the festive period? I know that Owen made bacalhau for Christmas Day, And that, of course, a traditional Christmas favourite. I think normally on the Christmas Eve with the bacalhau. He made it for Christmas Day. And the year ahead, what do you intend to try on when it comes to Portuguese food and wine? And what would you like Owen to cook, perhaps, and guide you through that if you need a food mentor, the food alchemist at your service, and he'll be joining us around 9. We've got Jackie, I hope, joining us from... We're somewhat disorganized as we ease our way back into the new year, of course. I think it takes a while, doesn't it, to get back up into top gear from the slowdown, idling in neutral over the festive period. So I'm trusting that Jackie will have got the memo, and she'll be joining us later on sometime this morning. Thank you for your messages, Anna, from, my goodness, Stockholm, -7 this morning. So I was going to moan about the weather here, which seems very trite now here on the Silver Coast. It did start raining, I think, at about 10 o'clock last night, and it seems to me like it hasn't stopped since then, quite frankly. And all your lovely greetings. We do have a tea duck vacuum. So there's a dad joke vacuum. And if you've been waiting, I've noticed when tea duck is not available, when the dad jokes are not, when the trio of dad jokes is not here on the screen, others step in. I think James has already done so this morning. So if you've got a dad joke up your sleeve, or even a Twix up your sleeve, oh, that's very painful dad joke there. And rightly, we started this morning with this for all sorts of reasons. Actually, quite frankly, this meme says so much, doesn't it? With no words whatsoever. This is the weather in Stockholm. Well, that one picture, I guess, can't be the whole weather in Stockholm or Sweden, but it gives you an idea. And a message that came with that was that it's -7 in Stockholm. And Anna was telling us at 8:15 this morning, bon dia, from a winter Stockholm, -7 right there. In the north of Sweden, it was -42. That is insane. That's like, seems impossible, doesn't it? I mean, people must worry when it gets down to that lower temperature. Well, they do, because the trains were shut down because it was too cold. Should a massive accident occur, it was too cold. It would be too cold for people to do anything about it. So quite rightly, shutting down the railways, staying indoors when it gets to -42 in the north of Sweden. People just shouldn't. I was talking to my new Norwegian best buddies, those guys that I was telling you about, who know England or know the UK. Well, England mainly, the English Football League. I was talking to them about their relationship. Like sometimes with Monty Python and Americans, it seems Norwegian. Some Norwegians know the UK and England through the football. And it was great to talk to those guys. And I was saying, when they were talking about their temperatures, it's like, people shouldn't have to put up with that. Such cold temperatures, but they do. I mean, human beings are quite extraordinary, are they not? And there's an example, living in and around -42 degrees, which to me is insane, basically. So all the best to you up there, Anna. Take care, keep warm, and we're talking about food and wine this morning, and I'm trying to find the slide for next Monday. It is, of course, whether I can find the slide or not. Next Monday will be the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club, a chance to raise a glass to Irish Pete next Monday. And we'll be trying wines from 2019. I didn't get to try it. I'll have to ask Mrs. M. Lovely to see Sarah and Dan last night. I'm not sure whether they noticed that was a 2019 wine yesterday evening. But that's what we'll be trying. It was the suggestion of a certain Chinese Terry, who I saw some of his dance moves. The man's incredible, immortalized on Facebook. He's a great dancer, and he has some great ideas for the wine club. Here he is when he was sat in at the other end of this table in the studio here when he joined me for the last wine club. And his idea was to look at all that booze behind him. The electric corkscrew, that is on charge currently with its comforting blue light. And Chinese Terry suggesting that we grab a couple of bottles from 2019 and celebrate that year of wine production here in Portugal. So do join us for that. That'll be next Monday from 8 in the evening. Okay, food and wine special, of course, today as well on the Good Morning Portugal show. Coach Turner was in at 7:22. Bom dia todos, como estás? Watching a beautiful dawn rising and listening to the birds singing. Are you still in Norfolk, Coach? Are you back home now? It's really quite restful, though on balance, I'd prefer to still be asleep. I'm really enjoying waking up and snoozing at the moment. The not only having rest, but being aware that I'm blissfully resting, and I'm so lucky to be doing so in my warm bed while it's peeing down outside. Just really enjoying the snooze button at the moment, and just very self-consciously enjoying resting and snoozing and being lovely and warm in bed, waking myself up early just to celebrate and marvel at that fact. But I think Coach Turner here would rather be asleep than marveling at the beautiful dawn and listening to the birds singing. Were they so noisy that they woke you up, in fact? And I forgot to tell you this. There were a couple of strange coincidences. What was it that happened? Oh, I think one was that Mrs. M. I went to the laundrette, as you can imagine, with a family of 5. We've actually got 10 beings in this family now, with 5 animals and 5 kids. Sorry, yeah, we're all kids, aren't we, in some way? But 2 adults, 3 kids, 2 dogs, and 3 cats now. Honestly, I do know how that happened, but it still comes as quite a surprise when I reveal such facts. And so we generate quite a lot of laundry, and occasionally you need to get down to the laundrette and dry off some of the damp, especially in these conditions, dry off some of the damp laundry. And I went into the laundrette. We've got a new one, which is brilliant, and another wonderful Portuguese cultural matter, and pleasant surprise, you might say. So I put the damp washing into the tumble dryer, and there's a bar next door. That's what's so wonderful about this. You know, how we might do our laundry here in Portugal is, I think the guy who owns the washing machines and tumble dryers also owns the bar opposite in this little arcade. So you can go and get a coffee or a beer. And I've watched football whilst waiting for my smalls to dry. Isn't that a really great idea? You know, all the laundrettes here seem to be good. And if you notice, there are laundrettes, you actually do your dirty washing in public here, a dirty laundry in public. There are often laundrettes in supermarket car parks as well. It's really smart, you know, very, very Portuguese. Multitasking, kill a few birds with one stone, and have a coffee or a beer whilst you're doing most things in life. You're never far away from a bar, are you, here in Portugal? So you can get a coffee or a beer whilst you're attending to things in life. So I put the washing on. This is from our couple of anecdotes of misunderstanding at Carl Munson. So I chucked, we take up 2 of these machines, and I asked Mrs. M to go and get it. And on this occasion, we normally take up 2 machines, but on this occasion, I put it all into one. Mrs. M went in thinking there were 2 machines on the go and started emptying both machines, and then began to realize that she was holding another man's underpants in the laundrette, and quickly realized that we were actually only using one of the tumble dryers, and she was actually emptying somebody else's bone dry underwear into our bags for life. Another good reason to have 50 odd bags for life in the house. You can use them for laundry as well. So she hastily put that back in. Luckily, it hadn't already been mixed up, I don't think, with our stuff. But what a moment that would have been if you are a gentleman in Portugal, here in São Martinho de Porto specifically, and Mrs. M was handling your underwear and folding it gently for you. What a lovely moment that must have been. But she quickly realized. And then the reason I'm prompted to and reminded of this is because of Coach Turner and his birds singing first thing in the morning. I was doing my snooze button revelry, pretty much the same for me in the mornings, and I could hear beautiful bird song. It was so loud and it was beautiful. You know, the birds were heralding the beginning of the day in the most beautiful dawn chorus, and this went on and on. And I said, "Isn't that so beautiful? Can you hear it?" And Mrs. M said, "Of course I can. It's my alarm clock." And she's downloaded some circadian rhythm, nature sound alarm clock, which wakes you with the sound of birds. I thought they were outside in the street. I was thinking, yes, another great reason to be here in Portugal. Well, it's a great reason to download the circadian rhythm natural sound alarm clock, which she uses now. And I felt a bit cheated, I must say. Anyway, these sorts of things I'm sure go on in homes across Portugal and the world. If you've got anything else like that, that you're prepared to share with us, whether it comes to nearly kidnapping other people's underwear or what you mistook for nature and you kind of pranked basically by your partner in some way, as I was by this bird song. Do share in the chat this morning. Dad joke then, you see, no sooner does a tea duck leave an opening, so to speak, it is filled. Dad joke of this morning from Ian Turner. The earth is 71% covered by water, none of which is carbonated. Therefore, the earth is flat. Thank you. Very good. And the God Squad tip of the day. We've moved from walking to running. And some running technique for those of you who want to get your trainers on and do a little bit of running. God Squad tip of the day then. Yesterday's exercise, otherwise known as the ankle dribble, is the basis for all good running technique. Sprinters will carry on raising their knees higher with each step, dribbling around their way around the athletics track. Can be forgiven for associating that with veteran runners, right? However, for most runners, picking the foot up just over ankle height is sufficient. Oh, okay. If you're comfortable with the exercise, start to extend each foot. It's the ministry of silly runs, isn't it? Focusing still on generating vertical movement. Please send a video, Coach T, when you're next at the track. Would love to see that. And maybe we can put the Monty Python music on in the background. You should find you start to move at a reasonable pace. So practice over 50 meters or so. Clear everything out of the way. Don't try this at home. Try it in your drive or up your street. Walking back to recover. Okay, so do a sprint, or not a sprint exactly, but do a run in that way. Do the dribble and walk back and rest with a bit of fartlecky style action built in there. Repeat a few times. You can use this as part of your warm-up routine as well. Excellent stuff. Thank you very much, Coach Turner, for that. Deagle. Bon dia, Carl and GuMPers from a dry, dark 7 degrees again in Belfast. The daily average last year in Belfast was 10.1 degrees, up from 9.7 degrees. Global warming, our warmest year, but our second wettest from 1894. Is being wet part of global warming as well, or is that something else we should worry about? Is a global wetting going on? It certainly feels like that in San Martino de Porto. I think Belfast will export some rain to Portugal for some sunshine heat. It's not a fair swap, that. No, a good swap, help both countries. We got the rain already, thank you very much. I don't know if you got the sunshine there, Deagle, and I hope your recovery is continuing, my friend, and looking forward to seeing you here and perhaps tying in an Algarve GuMPer gathering when you're next here. That's if you want a lot of GuMPers turning up on your doorstep while you're trying to relax in the Algarve. Bon dia, GuMPers, then from the Slug as well. And James, happy year of the banana slug. Well, I've never heard of that in the Chinese calendar, but apparently it is the year of the banana slug. Another great one ahead, says James. Bon dia, GuMPers. I've got a learning Portuguese idea to share with you, James. I think you're going to like it. And it's a book called The Elephant in the Room. And it's going to be like a children's book, a visual, an illustrated book of you and me talking to each other in Portuguese. I hope you're going to like this idea. I think it could be useful to others. Bon dia, GuMPers, you say, Feliz quarta a todos, como va as coisas. We do like that. That will be going in the book. These phrases that will be helpful to people. And, of course, we can record it. We can make an audio of it too, can't we? Because we have been known to chat on from time to time. Mindful moment then. We haven't got a deep thought of the day, but I guess this is very similar, on a similar wavelength. It's a mindful moment of the day with Pierre Taylor de Chardin de Max Factor. We are, that's a good one that I'm just suddenly reminded of, a dad joke from the 70s. Why is the Avon lady pregnant? Because Max Factor. Bit rude, sorry. We're not human beings, but you'll be saying that, won't you? A little chuckle around the world there, a little ripple of chuckling based on an Avon lady dad joke. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings having a human experience. Sometimes useful to remember that. Thank you very much. And carrying on from his one with everything hot dog joke yesterday, spiritual dad joke, mindful dad joke. Why don't Buddhists vacuum in the corners? Because they have no attachments. Very good. I wonder if that's up as motivational posters around the Dyson factory. I wonder. Antonio, thank you for those, James. Antonio F here. Bon dia, todos. And great work over at GMP VIP. Antonio. We'll look at your Portuguese wines article when we have Owen joining us after 9. You've also sent us information about the top 10 sales of new cars in Portugal. And we're going to do more work on cars. We have been promised by Toyota that they'll lend us cars to do some reviews with. I think me and Colin are going to go in his Yaris. We'll do a Yaris review. And we were talking yesterday about filming that at the Buddha Eden Garden, going back to Buddhists and mindful moments. Have you been there, the Buddha Eden Garden? Oh, and I've got another question for you. And we'll go through that top 10 of top sales of new cars in Portugal from 2023. The rain has intensified outside. It's biblical here in San Martinho de Porto this morning. Can you hear it? Really pouring down out there. Yeah, and I've got a question for you. I'm currently writing an article on where to live in Portugal. So if you could let me know, how did you choose? What was your process? I think I was personally involved in one or two processes of people moving to Portugal here who are now in our community. But if you could remind me, that would be awesome. So can you help with where to live in Portugal and how did you choose? I'll leave it on the screen for a moment to prompt your memory there. Okay, that would be really helpful to me. If you don't mind giving me a bit of a reminder. I've been writing about what helps, I think, are some of the immutables. Do you want to spend your time cooling down or warming up? Do you want to live near the coast or the interior? Do you want to live a very international kind of expaty foreigner immigrant life? Or do you want to live in a very immersive, more local Portuguese culture? Those sorts of things I think can be helpful. You've got the basic areas, haven't you, as well? The north, the Algarve, the Silver Coast, central Portugal, Lisbon and surrounding areas. Other areas are available, of course. Tell me about your strategies, if you will, and that will help me write the article. You can even send me a quote if you like. 913-590-303 if you want to send me something that I can include in the article as well. So thank you, Antonio F., for your sterling work and contributions. And I will send that mug to you this week. Sorry, that's been a bit late, isn't it? People who achieve a certain level of contribution over at GuMPer VIP, get a mug sent to them. If you think you're due a mug, let me know and I'll stick one in the post to you as a thank you, basically. Perhaps one of these, the new Love Portugal mugs there. You see what I did there? We've got the yellow sun, we've got the blue sky, and we've got the colours of the Portuguese flag in the heart there. Love Portugal, that's our motif for 2024 as we ease our way towards a Portuguese summer of love after the Red Carnation Revolution celebrations conclude in April. Remember, hit that button early and often. Okay. Bon dia Alegria, the mist is slowly revealing the foothills of the mountains. Have you got a photo of that this morning, Pete? That would be very nice to see. We have no audio, so I can't see who that is there. Who's that who's telling me that this morning? Okay. Okay. I think you might be whoever that was. Who sent me that? I can't. Sorry, I haven't got you listed in my address book, so I can't. I can see the message, but I can't see who that came from. But I think others would have complained by now. If I've been talking for the last 25 minutes without audio, I am really very sorry. But I think I can be heard, and it might be a local problem for the person who sent that. But then again, you won't hear me saying that, will you? If that's what is happening for you just at your specific location. Big Tony Jimbo Deegs Buono Novo Buono is how that gets simplified by some. So I've been starting to say that. I was saying Buono Novo and now just Buono and how long do we keep saying that, I wonder, as well? I'm a bit dark looking, apparently, says Deagle. Yeah, I think I need to get more light on those plants behind me. But it's quite something working with all this color balance and not getting the on-air sign bleached out as well. So we're getting condolences quite rightly coming in for Irish Pete, for Isabel, and the process is so quick. I think Pete referring there to how when somebody dies here in Portugal, things are taken care of very quickly. And Pete's Irish Pete's funeral is in Leiria at 11 this morning. And if anyone knew Pete and would like to go, and that's news to you, then of course drop me a line. I'll keep an eye on that, and I'll get the details to you of where his service is later this morning. You're right, Pete, Solar Life Pete. It is a very quick process, something else that you have to take on and get used to here in Portugal. If you fancy having a mouth slightly drier than the Sahara Desert, and unlike my stomach tattoo was, not even a choking hazard, try a Bolo Doré. It's not a choking hazard anymore, as it doesn't have the little toy in it, but thank you for that recommendation. We'll be talking more about food and wine with Owen in a few minutes. Condolences to Pete's family, says Antonio F. as well. And I'll star that up to share with Owen. We've got favourite food coming in from Deagle already. And yeah, you might as well live in a freezer. The response to Anna's sharing there. Minus 42, of course, in the north of Sweden at the moment is unimaginable, says Deagle. I think -3, -5 is bad in Belfast. I guess it depends on how well you are prepared for these things. In countries with broad ranges of temperature, it is quite difficult, isn't it? I think. I mean, that's the thing with the UK. There are certain extreme weather conditions that the UK is just not set up for. And I would argue that is the case here in Portugal. We just don't talk about the winter here, do we? Most of our life in Portugal is lived in the sunshine. So we just go into a collective denial of the damp and dark months here, and just hope that they all pass as quickly as possible, and don't really prepare for it, don't really talk about it, and just wish it would not be happening until it's not happening anymore, and we forget all about it. Superb. Okay, I'm being careful about what I'm reading out from Pete this morning. Carl, do you not have a tumble dryer? It's a big must in Belgium. No, I don't. It's funny that we could get a tumble dryer and we could use it at home, of course. But I actually quite like going out. I sometimes pop all the tumbling clothes, the drying clothes into the machine, and take the dogs with me, and take the dogs for a walk while that's happening. It's a social thing, isn't it? Like so many things are in Portugal. But you could argue, couldn't you, that if you do everything at home and you do everything yourself, that changes community life, doesn't it? It's a bit like when the DIY thing happened and everyone started doing their own home improvements. They kind of did other people out of work. And some people would say, well, that's a good thing. Be self-sufficient. But then again, it's good, I think, to have your own particular place and not do everything in a community. Haven't been to the Buddha Garden yet. That's Antonio F, a Portuguese man who's not been there. Lots of people haven't. It's truly amazing. I think some Portuguese people might not approve, perhaps, of the owner. Isn't he a controversial figure, Antonio F, the guy behind the Buddha Garden? But it's quite the extraordinary place. I would urge anyone to go there. And I'll let you know when me and Colin are going to do the Yaris review in Colin's car and do a bit of filming. We'll let you know when we're there, because it is a really great day out, quite frankly. And my response to that sucks. So do vacuum cleaners. Very good. Those making it, that exclamation, really appreciate it. It kind of changes the mood, doesn't it? A little bit of humor always changes the mood, doesn't it? Audio check, got it here. Well, that's a blooming relief after half an hour of broadcasting, quite frankly. And Felicia Anonovo Toros from Jess. Good morning to you, Jess. Antonio replying to you there as well. Bon dia. Felicia Anonovo to you, Jess, from Antonio F. 9 o'clock in the morning here on the Good Morning Portugal live stream podcast and show. And we'll give him a nice big round of applause and bring him onto the screen now. It is the...
Good morning. Good morning, guys.
You've got a nice mountainous backdrop there, my friend. How are you this morning?
I'm very, very well. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. It's remarkable. You're out there in the howling wind and rain in the mountains, and we can hear you perfectly.
Brilliant. That's good. That's good. I'm suffering a bit of a delay from... no,
how are you?
Normal. Everything's good. Everything's good. Yeah, this was taken the other day when John and I and Neil was having our wander in Spain looking for the thermal baths, and that's just the Jerez, the Pena Jerez in the background there.
Yes, 3 men looking for a hot bath. Could be a rugby team, could be anything. Could be all sorts of possibilities, couldn't it? So I trust you had a good Christmas and festive period. I saw some documentary evidence to suggest that you did. How was it for you this year, Owen?
It was great this year. A really good chance to celebrate this year and had some real fun. Went to a karaoke party, which was absolutely amazing. Getting everybody up and singing, everybody dropping the guard and singing a song or two. It was really good, really, really good.
That's interesting. Yeah, we had Sarah and Dan here last night, who, of course, you know. For some reason, oh, yeah, it was because I went to my neighbour's house. On our way to the fireworks here in San Martin de Porto, we were invited to the neighbours to pop in for a drink there before we all went out to the fireworks. Sadly, my neighbour was in no fit state to go and watch the fireworks. He'd had 1 or 2 sherbets that evening. And when you arrive at a party that's already well underway, you can be running at a different speed. And we were running at a different speed to our neighbours and their friends. And they were singing karaoke. And in their own minds, they must have sounded fantastic.
You lose all inhibitions.
It was incredible. Yeah, all inhibitions were gone completely. Louise had Mrs. M had the microphone thrust into her hand and was singing, I think, Creep by Radiohead. Straight away, as soon as she walked into the room, she was given, and the kids were quite surprised by the swearing in that. So we went from 0 to 100 in a few seconds in party terms. But yeah, karaoke. What kit have you got? What do you use for doing it? Did you improvise, or did somebody have some proper karaoke kit?
Somebody had a proper karaoke kit with all the discs.
No way.
Oh yeah, so you could choose from the decades as well, which is really, really good. Awesome. It's a really good mixture of music, really good mixture of people, really good mixture of alcohol and food as well, which is really, really good.
And you have to tell us then. So what's your karaoke classic for you personally?
My song. Well, I used to do karaoke back in the UK. I had my own little.
You did, didn't you? Yes.
I used to always start everybody off by singing Bobby Darin's "Mac the Knife."
Okay. Because you know how to work a room with the karaoke, so you can almost talk your way through that. Is that the point?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I was the first person to get up and sing, and I did sing the Bobby Darin, and that was it. I think that was the catalyst then for anybody else to let loose on the old microphone.
Okay, all right, excellent stuff. So that was you getting the party started at your own karaoke's.
It wasn't mine. It wasn't mine. It was at somebody else's place in Arcos de Valdevez up here.
You did it. Oh, okay. This is when you were doing it in Portugal. But back in the day, you were a professional karaoke sort of entertainer and purveyor.
Yeah. I was doing 5 nights a week. The best night was at the Red Lion at Ambleside in the Lake District. That was my favourite night.
Oh, what a beautiful location, Ambleside! How lovely.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. I love that. I did that for a number of years. Yeah, that was great fun. I think sometimes I got myself a bit carried away, having 1 or 2 sherbets than I should have done before I started. Yeah. You know, there was the odd night where I would just let people sing because I'd clearly had enough, and my 2 young children, and it was time for me to slow down doing so many nights a week and spend more time at home. So I eventually passed the company on to somebody else.
Well, do you know what though? I think there could be. Given, our community is of a certain sort of age, isn't it, and demographic. I think if you get, I've got a karaoke player and some PA stuff. We should have that at our Discovery weekend, shouldn't we? I think the GuMPer.
Absolutely. I think that would be such a bonus to have, because it's one of those things that people are very reluctant to start.
Yes.
And then once you get 1 or 2 people going up there, I think people, gain encouragement from that, and they start to get up and they sing maybe 1, 3, 4, 5, 7.
Yeah, absolutely. And it changes, doesn't it, from like not being able to get anyone to do anything to actually then having to form an orderly queue and people getting eggy because they can't get on the mic.
Absolutely.
A crossover point at an evening of karaoke. So let's do that. Definitely. Let's involve karaoke in our Discovery weekends. And we're waiting for invitations from GuMPers to have us in your neck of the woods, so to speak, and we'll bring the karaoke kit with us. This morning's a theme, because of course the food alchemist is with us. Food favorites, best meal tasted over the festive season. You, of course, Owen, made some bacalhau for Christmas Day. We'll talk about that first and see how that went. And the year ahead, has anyone got a food challenge for Owen? Because hopefully we'll get back into doing a bit more live prep on the screen. Are you up for that this year, Owen?
100%. And yeah, as I said, it'd be great to have the viewers' input on that, on things that I can cook or should cook, or any advice on any particular dishes, or where you can possibly source particular ingredients, any sort of questions like that, that people want to throw at me, I'll do my very best to give them an answer on that. But yes, definitely want to get back in the kitchen and start doing some cooking, in particular from the book, the Eat Portugal book. And I'm still waiting to hear back from the two authors, Lucy and Celia, to see if they will have an appearance on the show to talk about the book and potentially maybe one or two of the recipes that's in this book, because I found this a great help.
Yeah, brilliant. Excellent stuff. So Lucy and Celia, if you're watching, if you see this, we'd love to talk to you on the show. And maybe even bring something off the pages there and cook it with you on screen. How about that? They may well have a studio kitchen. Remember those days, the amazing Alvagra studio.
Oh yes, they were the days. They were the days. In fact, I do from time to time go back and have a look at them and kind of, how did myself, Gary, and Chinese Terry keep ourselves together while we were doing that? Because it was lots of laughs, lots of gaffes.
Yes, absolutely. You're professionals. That's how. Oh, look, Mindful Midlife Travel is here. Good morning to you. It sounds like we should have you on the show as well. So bon dia to you. And it was Mike who was struggling with the audio. So if you're still watching, Mike, thank you so much for your message. You reset your YouTube app and you've got audio again. So Mike Barton met you and the fam at the Fado conference. Not Fado conference, the Fado concert. It wasn't a conference, but it was educational. It was a Fado performance and presentation as well. It was really good. The GuMPers did that in GuMPer, and that's where we met, Mike. So thank you for tuning in this morning. Retired firefighter and paramedic from Chicago. Yeah, absolutely. Remember meeting you there. Great to meet you. And thank you for tuning into the show this morning. Now, somebody else, Owen, who we'd like to join us this morning is James from the Anson Brewery in Lorigna. So I'm actually going to send him a live message now. When I spoke to James at the, the beer festival, the Silver Coast Beer Festival, was that last December, November, December? I can't remember. But towards the end of last year, I suggested to him, and I thought you might approve of this, that we do a regular craft beer corner on, because I know you are informally with you. We've done that, and of course we'll chat this morning about how things are going at the Lettra Brewery, where you are the purveyor of the excellent range of Scotch eggs to that brewery up there. And you've been keeping that flame alight for us, the craft beer thing. And I thought James might be great as somebody inside the industry and as a brewer. If he would, let's leave him a message now. I'm just pushing the WhatsApp record button. Hi, James, it's Carl. We're live on the Good Morning Portugal show this morning. Do you remember we talked about the craft beer corner that you might do for us, keeping us abreast with what's going on in the craft beer scene in Portugal? Well, if you want to join us this morning, please do. I'm going to send you a link on this WhatsApp number now. I'm hoping it's James, because it could be anyone, really, couldn't it, getting this message this morning? But hopefully it's you. And I'll send you the link. And if you want to join us a little later on this morning before 10 o'clock, you'd be most welcome. Speak to you soon, James. And I'm looking forward to trying some more of your Anson beer soon. Okay, so there you go. That message has gone to him. There we go, and I'll send him the link as well. Yeah. So how's it going at Lettra, Owen? Have you been in there? You I think you fulfilled a big order, didn't you, for them?
I did. I mean, I think there was over 40 eggs that was delivered in December alone.
Superb.
And they're actually having a break. They're actually closed now until the 18th.
Right. Okay.
Which gives me a good opportunity really to get out and find a few more places. Few more eateries actually, because what I want to try and do in between, hello Antonio, what I want to try and do in between we start doing the live cooking things is to travel to places and try particular dishes. So with the help of the GuMPers, I'd like to know that where have you eaten your favorite meal, whether it be a Bifana, whether it be a Franceschina, and I will go do my very best because I want to do a bit more traveling this year. So I want to go to a particular place and try a particular dish that somebody has had and give my kind of humble opinion on it. Excellent.
Yeah, so get that in as well. If there's a particular foodie favorite that Owen can go and try, stick that into the chat this morning or drop him a line. The Food Alchemist on Facebook, right? Is that still the best way to get hold of you?
You can do, or email owensfoodalchemy@gmail.com.
Okay. I see that Colleen has joined us this morning as well. Good morning to you. Now, Colleen sent me a fantastic video, and it's Funnily enough, there's talk of lamb this morning.
Oh, yes.
Slightly. Oh dear, sorry about that. A slightly awkward video to show you what can happen when you're just driving to go out to an appointment in Portugal and something happens. I'll play you that in just a moment, and then we'll talk about lamb. It's a slightly awkward segue. Bom dia todos. Have a day filled with sweet observations of life in Portugal. Well, we will. Thank you, Colleen. You had one yourself yesterday. This is Colleen setting out for an appointment, and then this happens.
Amazing.
There was one there that didn't want to cross the road. Maybe he knows something. Now,
I can smell that mint.
Yeah, thank you, Colleen, for that. And we had a comment in. Yeah, I told you it was an awkward segue. My favourite food would be lamb pierced with garlic, slow roasted. How would you cook a leg of lamb? Now, lamb is not the most. I mean, it is a dish here, but it's not the most popular or common dish you would see around. Borrega, and I think often it's a mutton, isn't it? And sometimes the lamb sheep is a little bit older than you might be used to. Deagle, you would love the lamb, he says, Pete. They slaughter quite young, but it is so tender and juicy. Well, that's news to me because that might be maybe a more central and northern Portugal thing. But how would you cook a leg of lamb? First question coming in for the Food Alchemist this morning.
I'm on the same there with Deagle. Morning, Deagle. Yeah, pierced with garlic, rosemary, and potentially a bit of thyme. Smothered with a bit of olive oil, a bit of salt and pepper over the top. Slow roasted in the oven. It is one of those dishes, really. Lamb is kind of difficult to get unless you're going to your local butchers. I managed to. I've made a couple of lamb dishes just recently because it's so few and far between that you can get hold of it. So obviously, when I do, I've cooked a couple of meals here for John and Pam. Bought some lamb chops for myself, but I've also got in contact with a friend of mine that's here that has a small farm, and I've ordered my lamb for the new year because it takes quite some time to get one from a particular butcher. So thankfully, I know somebody there that's rearing sheep lamb, and hopefully in the coming months, I shall have some in the freezer.
So we like the slow cooking then, and actually, funnily enough, all roads seem to be leading towards lamb this morning. We've got a new game that we play here. Mrs. M buys some indistinct meat cuts in a vacuum shrinked bag at Pingados. Now, Pingados meat, I think, the butchery at Pingados is pretty good. Yeah. And she finds these very good value vacuum sealed bags. And it seems to be a mixture of cuts in there. I don't know, maybe they're just sort of getting rid of assortments from the butchery department. But she found some lamb, and that's what we had for Christmas Day, funnily enough. And so the game we're playing is she'll find it, and I'll open it up, see what's in there, and find a way of cooking it. And that's exactly what I did. Some slow roasted. We did a thing with the kids, and we'll talk about your bacalhau in a minute. But with the kids, I was thinking to myself, I do not want to cook something for about, spend 3 hours in the kitchen and have the kids eat it in 5 minutes and say, I don't really like this. So I did them what they wanted. I asked them what they would like to eat at lunchtime. And one of them had noodles. Digby had some shrimp tortillas. And what did Minnie have? I can't remember now. Oh, she had burgers and mash. So they had exactly what they wanted, so they would eat it. That was done and dusted at lunchtime. And then the grown-ups, us two, we had lamb, slow roasted later on in the afternoon. Nice. I did Yorkshires.
Yes.
Yorkshire puds, and they were fantastic. They were a crowd pleaser too. And it's true what they say, isn't it? You mustn't open the door.
Yes.
Which they were all right, but I opened the door a bit too early and they collapsed.
Oh.
That's what happens, isn't it, with the Yorkshires? But yeah, lamb. Quite a few lamb fans this morning. Keep those questions coming for Owen, the Food Alchemist, and our regular co-host talking about Portuguese food and wine here. Asking the questions, what are your favourites? what was the best meal you tasted over the festive period? And of course, you made bacalhau. Can you tell us about that? And which of the many recipes did you use for your bacalhau preparation on Christmas Day?
Well, we actually had plans to actually go out for Christmas Day, and that kind of changed in the morning. So it was a last-minute decision to what we were going to eat that particular day, and the bacalhau was there. We did have bacalhau ready prepared, and that was just quite simply. It was already the pre-soaked. You can buy. We didn't go out and buy the great big salted slab of bacalhau. We went for the good old packaged, already pre-washed pieces of bacalhau, and that was just simply put into a pan of boiling water with 4 or 5 cloves of garlic and maybe 2 or 3 bay leaves, and that was left in there for about 45 minutes.
Oh,
once that was taken out of there, it was placed then on a bed of potatoes and carrots with a little bit of vegetable stock, drizzled with loads of olive oil, and then it was put in the oven for maybe an hour and a half or so. And then just before serving, we put some more olive oil just over the top there, and it was just served with some seasonal vegetables. And it was really, really good. For me, it was a nice change from the usual Christmas fare that we would have at that time of the year. So and in keeping with tradition, I know it's normally eaten on Christmas Eve, but
yeah, right.
It was a good way to celebrate Christmas to have the bacalhau, and I do prefer mine fresh rather than the salted, because I find a difference here. I think I mentioned on one of my very early shows that I did with the bacalhau. It's quite similar to the salted cod that West Indians use in a lot of their cooking, which I was used to growing up, which I find is less salty than the bacalhau we have here. So I err on the side of fresh rather than the salted. I can't imagine myself buying one of those great big flat pieces of dried cod and probably soaking it for about 3.5 weeks before it was palatable for my taste anyway.
Yeah, right. And Philomena, when I saw her in Coimbra at our Discovery weekend, was telling me about. I mean, we went to I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but it is famous for its bacalhau in Coimbra, and you can choose on the menu which bit of the cod you want. So just like a steak, there are different cuts from different parts of the great big flat cod that you talk about that you see in the supermarket, and that's why there's often a bandsaw or a guillotine there. Because you're choosing whether you want the tail part. It's like leg or breast. Obviously, there aren't any legs on a bacalhau. which actually, there's a little idea for April the 1st this year. Leg or breast on the bacalhau. But Philomena knows all about that, and she had her favourite. And it was so good because when we walked in there, I had a train to catch. And as we walked in, she said to the staff, "This guy's got a train to catch. What have you got that can be prepared quickly?" And I think it was a bacalhau abrash, I think. And they were talking about it, and she ordered it. She said, "I'm just going to get you something." And it was right to have the bacalhau in this particular restaurant. And no sooner, pretty much, we sat down, than this beautiful bacalhau appeared, and I was able to eat it and get on a train. So it's not necessarily true that it's always leisurely in a Portuguese restaurant.
No.
It's about the food, isn't it? And when they understood my predicament, it was like, okay, well, let's get this guy a decent meal. We'll do it a bit quicker because he's got a train to catch. But nothing was scrimped on. And it's like, do you want a glass of wine with that? Yeah, glass of wine. And whilst the rest of the table were ordering, I was able to have my food and catch my train in time. So thank you, Philomena, for that. It was really special.
Nice.
I did actually publish a picture of bacalhau swimming in their natural environment. Like pick your own. And of course, some people, as happens with these pranks, said, "No, I don't think bacalhau swim freely." this particular restaurant has tanks as you go in. They're soaking the bacalhau on an industrial scale. Yeah, it's so popular. Is this restaurant, and so much volume do they do of bacalhau? They've got it soaking in great big tanks as you go into the room there. So that's the answer to your question, Darren. Do you prefer salted codfish or fresh? You actually prefer fresh if you can get it right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not salted at all.
Say that again.
Oh, not salted at all.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Yay for Yorkshire pudding, says the Yorkshireman Darren. And for Christmas dinner this year, I made some homemade fish and chips. Nice one.
Oh,
Tell us
nice.
about your batter, because would a fish and chip batter be fairly similar to the Yorkshire pudding batter, Owen, in your opinion?
Yeah, but, very similar. I mean, a lot of people, when they are doing battering the fish, they will use a beer batter. I don't particularly put beer into my Yorkshire puddings.
Waste of beer, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I'd rather drink the beer and put just some sparkling water, which helps with the rising there as well. You know,
Okay.
if you go along with the beer batter, that's going to do exactly the same. But yeah, so I would prefer to use sparkling water rather than that.
All right. So El Corte Inglés doesn't offer fresh. Is there an El Corte Inglés in Porto as well as down in Lisbon then, Darren?
I think it's...
Oh, okay. Doesn't offer fresh codfish, but I found that Pingados does. Fresh codfish at Pingados.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice tip, everybody. And he made his batter with some Guinness. Guinness I had around.
How was it just there, Darren?
Yeah, funny that. It sounds like the morning after a party, doesn't it? Okay, so we've got a few more people join us this morning. We're talking about food and wine, of course. It's a happy hump day here on the Good Morning Portugal show with the Food Alchemist. And yes, Carl, the Buddha. Have you been to the Buddha Garden, Owen?
I've only driven past, but it looks fascinating. I do want to go in. I've only driven past. It looks amazing.
Yeah, Carl, the Buddha Garden's creator-owner was a Portuguese guy called Joe Berardo, was praised in the beginning for being a self-made man, but how do I phrase this? But that changed. That changed because he was a bit of a shady wheeler dealer by the sound. I think the fortune with it's because it's a wine family as well as a wine dynasty. And these wine dynasties of Portugal, they would make such good Netflix series. I think he comes from a very interesting family who made their money in mining, perhaps in Africa, which is always, a bit of a shady business, of course, and a controversial business. And they became, I think it's Bacalhau, isn't it, at the Buddha Garden? And you can taste their wine, you can eat at their restaurant there. And I think he got into some controversy, but I don't know, maybe it's his kind of karmic thing, or, he's trying to give back to the world and society. It's a very beautiful and peaceful place. Or, as some others describe it, a great big tax dodge. I don't know. I'm just saying what other people might be saying with that. Barak is here as well. Good morning to you. Hola, bon dia from Travança de Lagos in central Portugal, not down there in the Algarve. Lovely to see you here. Mindful midlife travel, and Pamela Smith, who's enjoying this cat on my shoulder. We are finally making our first trip to Portugal in April. Looking forward to trying a cataplana. Now, do you cook that one? Oh, in the cataplana?
Oh yes, I've cooked with the cataplana quite a few times. It's one of the first things that I was interested in when I saw the actual cataplana itself. So I've done the pork alentejo, which is the pork and clams in there.
Yeah.
I think it's only the pork clam dishes that I've actually ever done in the cataplana, and every one of them have been stunning, just because it's a one pot cook. Mm-hmm. Everything on the stove, and it's something that for me is great for a small dinner party of 4, or depending on the size of the cataplana that you have. It's something that you can literally cook on the stove top. And you present it at the table by taking the lid off and just presenting
big reveal.
Yeah, the big reveal.
Mate, come on, Kat. I think you got to sit up on my shoulders, or you've got to sit on my lap. But my arm is starting to hurt now. So sit up there, but don't scratch me. Come on, get yourself there. There we go. Get yourself a nice sort of pussy muffler at the moment here. I've got to do this to. He's a bit weird, this cat. He's a bit weird. And he's making me act a bit weird as well now. Cataplana, of course, is the name of the dish. It's like balti, isn't it? The recipe or the dish is named after the receptacle in which it's cooked.
Mm-hmm. Like the tandoor for Indian cooking.
Yes, right. And the funny thing I find with the cataplana here, or generally speaking with Portuguese seafood, is given how good the seafood is here, Owen, why do Portuguese people love to use a crab stick?
I don't know. That's something that I found really strange. If I go back to the days back in the UK and being in a pub of a Friday night, and the guy would come in with all his tray of seafoods, and you would have your cockles, your whelks, you know, your mussels, and then the pink and white sticks, which clearly was something that was manufactured somewhere and brought in, you know, packaged and brought out there. And it was never the thing. I hate it. I think I tried it once and I hated it. And in fact, it was that put me off having crab. I think it was
really? They've never seen a crab, have they? Maybe across the room in the production facility.
Those hideous,
yeah,
video footage of how it's made, and it almost looks like a sweet factory. You know, when things are, you know, two different colours, then they're matched, and it's in a bar, then it's all chopped, and then it's packaged. And for me, just seeing that made me think, right, I'll not be eating that again. And it was only, in fact, if I go back, maybe 7 months was the first time I ever tried fresh crab, and it's just the best.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful. And you're absolutely right. You don't want to be eating those crab sticks. And then they're nothing to do with crab. And they're like as you say, like a Willy Wonka seafood.
Yeah, it's all, for me, it's processed and got out there.
Yeah. Thank you, Pete, for the message you sent to me for John, who was talking yesterday about interrailing. I think you might have put that into the chat a little bit earlier on there, but I'll forward that on to John because he was talking about interrailing. That's really helpful. Thank you very much, Pete, for that. Pam, good to see you as well this morning. And what else have we got here in the chat? Loving the background cat, you say. Reminds me of every Zoom call I've ever had. Yeah, this guy's he's on me though, not on the keyboard at the moment. He probably will have a little route around behind the scenes. Sparkling water for tempura or even fish batter, but I've never heard it with Yorkshires. Interesting.
Yeah, give it a try. Give it a try, Pete. It works wonders.
Aussie Mania has been prompted to talk as well, thanks to Darren's comment about fresh cod in Pingo. Usually the fresh, in inverted commas, cod in Pingo is actually defrosted frozen cod. Read the small print. Thank you for that. Congelado would be the word you're looking for. Oh, and before I forget, and while we're talking about seafood, I bought a bag of clams the other day to make. I was just steaming them with a bit of garlic and some leeks and some lardons, which I thought might be quite nice with some white wine in there. Why were they so sandy and grainy, Owen? What can I do about that? I would
steep them in some cold water, flush them out in cold water. Just don't put any salt in it at all.
Right.
If I was buying fresh clams, that's exactly what I would do. I'd put them into a large bowl with some water, fresh water, and leave them there for a while. And it's amazing. Once you do start to drain them out, you will see a nice little sandy bed on the bottom of the bowl because they've spat everything out. They're cleaning themselves out.
Mate, I ate that instead.
Good sauce.
My lad who joins me, the two of us, we like the seafood more than others in the family. And we both started eating it, and he was kind of saying, "These are a bit sandy, aren't they?" And I'm saying, "Yeah." And we could hear ourselves sort of grinding away at the sand in these clams. So they need a little bit of a swim in fresh water today before you start.
A little bit of a purge in some fresh water. That'd be great. I mean, I'm going to be. I'd like to do a lot more seafood dishes in the coming year.
Yeah.
And in fact, I hope in the coming months is to be traveling up to Vigo, up into Spain, because the port up there in Vigo is one of the largest fish importers or exporters in the world.
Okay.
So varieties of fish and seafood that is there must be immense. So I intend to go up there and make a short video of what's going on up in Vigo and to actually take something back and to cook something from whatever I purchased as well.
Can't wait, mate. That sounds great. Thank you, Aussie Mania, for joining us this morning. I didn't waste the sandy clams. I actually used a coffee filter or a sieve to try and sieve out some of the sand after cooking, Owen. And you'll be proud. What I couldn't eat at the first sitting, I actually hand shucked. Would that be a hand shucked?
Yeah.
The left, the little bits of bacon, the leek, and I added a cream sauce and bunged them on some tagliatelle.
Nice.
Still a little bit sandy, but I wasn't going to waste them. But I will remember them.
Absolutely not. I absolutely love clams. You know, I think one of the dishes that I really want to try and get some larger clams because I know quite a few American folks up here in the north, and I intend to do clam chowder. I've always seen that on American recipes, and it's something that I've never tried myself and something I've always been longing to try. So I think clam chowder will be definitely on the list of things to cook in 2024.
Oh, something I want to ask Silver Coast. That sounds delicious. Something I want to ask Silver Coast people. Aki Del Mar, they seem to have a takeaway near in between Caldas de Rainha and Foz de Relho. What is that takeaway? Is it a fish and chip shop or is it a seafood restaurant takeaway? If anyone knows the answer to that, please let me know. Valdenor is here this morning. Good morning to you. Pam and I used to make a pan-fried trout with a beer batter. So good. Like food memories, don't we? And Buddha Eden is a great place to take visitors. Thank you for that. So much beautiful fresh fish on a wonderful coastline, and yet the scraps of the cod that Scandinavians would bin is treasured here. Now. All right, let's talk about that for a moment then, because that's a fair comment, isn't it? You know, it's an acquired taste. It's quite a shock when you experience. I think we're talking about bacalhau here, aren't we? And you know, you've got this lovely, vibrant seafood culture, and yet we're eating a preserved. And I've got actually I can put on the screen now the classic bacalhau brush. And it's Pingados's version of this, their recipe. And their recipes are pretty good, actually, if you're looking for inspiration online. And they're very straightforward and simple recipes over there, which I'm putting onto the screen now. Yeah, why would you, when you could get lovely fresh fish, why would you bother with preserved salted cod that actually isn't even produced in Portugal, is it? It's mainly Scandinavian, Norwegian, I think. And then there's this funny kind of seafood stick, or delicias do mar, I think they call them. It's about, isn't it about comfort and memories that are revoked? I mean, every culture's got this, haven't they? A questionable thing, like Yorkshire puddings.
Exactly.
People might say the same thing about a Yorkshire, but why are you eating that toasted batter? It's got no flavor. And this is about what it evokes for people. It's not intrinsic taste or quality necessarily. It's something really important and in the DNA of the people, right, Owen? And every culture's got it, hasn't it?
Well, I would say, in particular with bacalhau, I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, please put me wrong, Antonio, if you're there, is that it's a food that's steeped in tradition. It's part of the custom here, and I'm sure if you were to talk to the much older generation of bacalhau, I think they would talk to that with an air of saudade. Because I always think that saudade is one of those words that speaks of nostalgia and past times and good times. And I think that bacalhau would kind of fit into that kind of bracket. You know, when you're talking about things of love, you know, when we were younger, we used to have bacalhau and it tasted like this. So I always associate bacalhau with tradition and, with tradition. It's one of those things that will never, ever change. You'll never change a Yorkshire pudding. No matter what chef puts their little twist on it, you'll never change it. And even if I was to try my own version of bacalhau, it wouldn't be the same as, you know, unless you have that, you know, certain amount of years knowledge of ways to cook it in many ways. I think it's one of those things that will never go away. You know, we know it as bacalhau being a traditional Portuguese dish, but so, you know, we've used salted cod all around the world. We have our different versions of that. So, you know, I'm a big fan. I don't eat it as much as I should do, but yeah, it's one of my favorites anyway.
And think about it, Pete. We all have our cultural comfort food. If I translate this again, we've used Yorkshire pudding as an example, but you could also say, why oh why, with so many lovely fresh vegetables, do British people in Portugal still buy tinned starchy beans with sugary tomato sauce on them? It's just what we grew up with, isn't it? And every now and then,
Exactly.
I mean, it's not an intrinsically beautiful or delicious thing, is it? It's just something.
I mean, look at the first show that we did, or the first show that I did. What was it? It was how to make your own baked beans.
Absolutely, because of and since then, actually, a lot of supermarkets seem to be having baked beans, albeit like €2 a tin. There you go. So that's what I have to do now here is like, well, there's your 27 beans. There's your 27 beans. That's your 27 beans. Verdad, says Mr. S. I think agreeing with Pete there. Oh, look at this. Be careful, Mr. S. O bacalhau e orivel. And very occasionally I meet a Portuguese person who whispers to me, I don't actually like bacalhau. Bon dia todos, says Mr. S. Good to see you here. And Darren says, my favorite cachorro is from a small cafe bar in Clarijos, Porto. They use spicy bread. So there's something for your list. Cachorro. What is that, Owen? What is the cachorro? It's a hot dog, isn't it?
I'm not too sure. I think it is. But I'm not 100% on that. I mean,
Tell us more, Darren. Have you got a photo? Maybe you could send me that. 913-590-303. But Clarige's Porto is a place to get a cachorro with a spicy bread. And these are the little twists that you're looking for, aren't they, Owen?
They are, yeah. I'd like to find these places, in and around something that's accessible for me. And I'd like to go and try these dishes that people have tried, in particular places, and that they rate as well. Because it'd be nice to see the impact that the Portuguese food has made on our lives. Obviously, a lot of us coming here to Portugal haven't really tried a lot of the food, so it'd be nice to find out what other viewers are eating in particular places, and the service that they've received as well. Because I think that's a bad thing. You hear a lot of negative comments about some places, whether it be waiting times or particular things not being on the menu. So it's looking at things like that, because I think when we do come into the country, we have a certain expectation level on how the food should be. And I think the majority of us are greatly surprised that it's not like back home. And I think it's that sort of barrier we have to get over, is that we are in a new country where things are done differently. And I just want to go around and experience the foods at different places as well.
Mate, I'm going to the meetup, the San Martino de Porto meetup on a Wednesday. And as much as I love going to the Storytellers on our 4th Wednesday of the month for a fancy 3-course meal, I will be delighted to be back at Palmeira. I haven't been there for a couple of weeks now, having the Prato do Dia. There's nothing I like more. I said to Mrs. M, somebody was talking about, I think from our community, saying, I want to try a different cafe every day. I think that's what I'm going to do for the new year. And I thought to myself, and I think I said out loud, I think I'll do that. And she said, you already do. So I'm looking forward to getting back to Palmeira today to having Nelson's Prato do Dia. And I'll post that up. What's great about him is he's got his menu up on a chalkboard, and I can send that to the group who might be joining us at the San Martino de Porto meetup. But I can't wait. It's a rainy, damp day here in San Martino de Porto. I'll be getting into Palmeira Cafe about 1 o'clock, and I'll probably have the Prato do Dia. You'll probably have some, baked in the oven, drizzled with some olive oil, and it'll be all those lovely flavors that I think you were just talking about and referring to there. And it'll be a lovely, easygoing meetup lunch. So I look forward to seeing you there if you're joining us. Deagle, also anti-crab. We've given birth to a movement here this morning, the anti-crab movement, because of crab sticks and Aussie Mania. Do you think Aussie Mania is Australian or Ozzy Osbourne fan? We had a both, maybe. And if you are Aussie Australian, have you been to Down Under Aussie Mania? Because that is a fantastic restaurant. I've been to once or twice in Lisbon. Very good. Some unusual things on the menu there, and beautifully cooked by Justin, the chef there and owner. We had a bucket of freshly caught crabs and clams cooked on the beach by some locals. Now, that is what you're talking about, isn't it? Where, Aussie? Why weren't we invited? Why were we not invited to that, Owen?
I know, that's crazy. I mean, one of the best places I went to before leaving the UK was Chisel Beach down near Portland. And the mackerel fishermen, they go out with the nets for a certain, they make a huge circle or half circle, and they draw the net back into the beach where they have little fires, and they get a big pan of salt water. They put the mackerel in, and it's boiled there and eaten there on the beach. You can't get any fresher than that. And there's nothing added to it. It's just been cooked in the salt water, nothing else. And you can just sit there on the beach and just pick at the mackerel. I love when food arrives, so quickly and so freshly like that. Yeah. So it's great. The clams and crabs, that sounds amazing.
It does.
In fact, I'm salivating thinking about it.
Look, and there's something about seafood, I think, isn't it, that's primal and that's causing you to salivate there. I think the minerals, the freshness and the minerals, the enzymes, all of that stuff with fresh seafood is very important to us human beings. Yeah. And the oils that we need as well. So
the omega-3s, exactly that, yeah.
Crab stick are usually labeled crab flavor sticks. Yeah.
You see, that's the thing, isn't it? The flavor is the word, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's never, like I say, it's never seen a crab. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame that it has put people off fresh dressed crab, which is a lovely delicacy. Hit that like button, folks. Thanks, Antonio. We're going to look at your wine article that you sent us in just a moment, because we talked a lot about food. We haven't talked so much about wine this morning. Don't forget to join us next Monday evening where we're trying wines from 2019. Also, I found mince pies this Christmas in Il Corte Inglés. Well, you will work there probably. If any, you're going to find them anyway. It's going to be Corte Inglés, isn't it? And it was €8 for 6.
You see, and that's exactly that. If you're going to find them at El Corte Inglés, that's the price you're going to pay.
Absolutely right. Paul Richards.
But for €8, you could have probably gone out and bought the ingredients and made them yourself.
I can imagine. Yeah, right. And I can imagine the look on Paul, a Yorkshireman here, Owen. Can you imagine the look on Paul's face hearing that 6 mince pies cost €8? I'm not paying that. What are you doing? Good morning.
I'm not paying that much.
Disgusting is that? Good morning from the cloudy Algarve. Well, we're all set up for 24. You guys are talking my favourite food. Tell us more about your favourites, if you will. Braguglia, what's that? What did I miss there? I wonder. And help in making a good paella, Owen. So, how would you go about making a paella? In Portugal, we're talking about arroz de marisco, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Similar version. Are they the same, or is there a difference? Is there more?
I'd say there's a slight difference between them, but not that much. I think I would start with whatever vegetables I'm using. Some hot oil at the bottom of the pan. And once the vegetables have started to go soft, I would then add my rice. And then it depends really, because, you know, I've seen paella done with chicken, obviously seafood as well, but I've also seen it been done with rabbit as well. Yeah, so I would definitely cook off whatever meats I was using, and then that would be added to the now cooking rice and vegetables. And then I would add some stock, plenty of stock, some tomato sauce or some sort of puree, just to give it that color. And then, you know, continually watching the rice, you know, to make sure that it doesn't, that the water doesn't all dissipate. But when you get into that crucial point where the rice is nearly done, is that I would then add my seafood, in particular the clams or anything that would need steaming, anything that would take, you know, anything up to 7 minutes to be cooked there under the steam pressure of the pan. And literally, I add saffron to mine as well to add a little bit of colour as well.
Right. I need to rewind you a little bit there. You said you add the rice. Now we're going into sort of risotto territory here, aren't we? You're uncooked rice.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay.
And so once the vegetables are done in the pan, I would add the rice to the oil there as well, just to give them a coating. Yeah. It gives you also a little bit of a nutty flavour as well. And then once that is done, then I would add a stock. Some people do use a chicken stock. I prefer to use a fish stock in there, because obviously you're using other pieces of meat, so you're going to get the taste from that anyway. And like I say, once the rice is cooked down to that sort of al dente, then I would add my clams or whatever other sorts of seafood I was using, and then cook it through, obviously, until your shell starts to open, until everything is done. But I love it. You can do paella so many ways, by adding and taking away whatever suits your fancy, really. You know, some people prefer not to have the rice in it, and they will put potatoes in there. But, you know, for me, it's definitely a rice-based dish. Almost kind of soupy.
Say that again. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Almost kind of soupy.
Yeah. Okay. So you like it quite a wet paella. So we're talking about sort of risotto, paella, and arroz territory here. Now, coming to Portugal, the rice in the supermarket, which rice to choose? That's a bit of a misstep or a confusion, isn't it? Rice looks different to me from what I was used to back in the UK and the rice style. And there's a lot of it as well, isn't there? Rice is very important to the Portuguese palate. Are we looking at a sort of short grain fat rice here for this particular dish?
Do you know what? In all honesty, Carl, I would probably use a basmati here. In particular, I would use a basmati.
Okay.
And that for me, that's a time thing. I think, you know, knowing the length of time that it will cook. So I would potentially use that, because In particular, if it's something that's been ordered by somebody and I've only got 20 minutes to go, for me, basmati rice would be ideal. I've
because
seen
it's
people
a smaller grain, a much smaller grain.
Smaller grain. You could use the arborio rice, which you would use for risottos.
Yeah.
But then you're going to get another texture. You're going to get because we do know that the arborio rice is going to be a little bit crunchy.
Yes, that's how they like it.
Although you're cooking it through. So for me, I prefer to use a basmati because it's a little bit softer in the texture.
Wow. So Paul's
I do think you're getting more and more stock if you're using the arborio rice. I tend to use that. Sometimes I'll even use long grain rice as well, pre-soaked long grain rice.
All right. So we can't give you. I mean, that's the thing with recipes as well, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure you can get a paella recipe online, but when you start to cook in Portugal, it's quite good to go off piste with the recipes, isn't it? Because you're going to be cooking what you can source.
Exactly.
Rather, because that's such a miserable kind of fool's errand, isn't it? It's getting a recipe offline and then painstakingly and disappointingly sometimes trying to get each of the things on the list. When you could have so much more fun subbing local things into the recipe. And just in that little conversation we had there, prompted by Paul, we went to Italy, Spain, Portugal, and the Far East, didn't we? India with basmati, I suspect. So you sub some things in there, have some fun with it, rather than sticking religiously to the recipes, folks. I know that's harder for some people than it is for others. But there you go. Paul, you're welcome with that. Any other food questions? Get them in. We've only got a few minutes to go. Who knew that two fellas could talk about food and wine? And we haven't even really talked about wine yet. Yeah, I made mince pies, says Pam. So Pam has got a sauce there of mince, clearly, to make her mince pies, and didn't have to spend €8. Aye, lad. Owen is right. Think about the price of Pam says, my Portuguese friend in the UK used to have me take bacalhau back for her. Bacalhau abraço is her favourite.
Nice.
Bacalhau in your luggage, though. Come on.
I know. I've heard some tales of people taking, the big slabs of bacalhau back, and people, having troubles at customs and everything else.
I imagine customs shut your case pretty quickly, don't they?
Can you imagine?
Bacalhau abraço, it makes an excellent replacement for mortar. Apparently, it's also great for crazy paper. You're so naughty. And wow, cachoeira is so popular here in Portugal. Yes, it's a hot dog. So there you go. And bon dia, best farrapo velho, farrapo. I don't know what that is. Do you, Owen?
I don't. Please enlighten us, Yuriko.
Okay, please let us know. And Aussie is Austin. There you go. Beach was the old beach on the Ria at the back of the Barra Beach in Aveiro. That sounds like a wonderful experience. Thank you, Aussie Mania, Austin, for being here. I think that's by Randy. Then, in fact,
right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you're into trains, it is just invaluable. What bacalhau? What's he talking about there? I wonder. He's gone off. I think
that's the Interrail.
Oh, okay. All right. It's not a Pete tangent. There is some connection there. Best sardines dish I had was served with tomato rice in Matosinhos. Tomato rice, that's a Portuguese classic. And I want to try the giant prawns I've seen on menus online. But is there anywhere to have them without mortgaging my... They're not...
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I absolutely love them because you can find them. They're great big Madagascan prawns, and they're huge. They're like a lobster almost. Yeah. And it's something that I've always wanted to try. But, I'm on the same tip as Mindful Midlife Travel. Is that it's the price. It really is the price. And another reason for me wanting to go up to visit Vigo, because I'm sure straight off the boat there I can get a better price.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's a reason to go to Matosinhos or similar places. The fish market there is amazing, and that's what Pete's referring to is the fish market at Matosinhos, one of the biggest ports, of course, here in Portugal, just north of Porto. Dried fruit mixture is very expensive in Continent, says Darren. Loving the food chat this morning. Thanks, everybody. We had them as part of a 9-course meal with drinks and fireworks for €90 for New Year's Eve. That's the big prawns there. It was so brilliantly Portuguese. They serve more prawns than vegetable soup at 2 in the morning. Yes. And thanks, Owen, for your tips on the paella there. Quinta de Danza near Castelo Branco says, Pete, they have a €25 Sunday deal with the prawns and unlimited drinks every Sunday. How about that?
Yeah.
We're looking forward to seeing your video from their mindful midlife travel. How about that? I only use basmati rice here. I can't figure out how to cook other rice here. Very interesting, Pam. Can we help with Pam then on cooking rice? Washing it first. That's my mother always taught me how to
washing it first until the water runs clear. That's what my mum used to say to me.
Both of our mums. Both. That's why we love cooking in it, Owen, because we had mums who loved cooking and were great cooks.
Exactly that.
And
exactly.
Okay, so wash it first, Pam. That's a rookie error and an understandable. And if you just cook it with all the starch on it and the dust from the packet, you will get very stodgy rice. So maybe that's your breakthrough here. Long grain rice. Jasmine says rather not. Sorry, go
just a quick tip for rice. If you're not using a rice cooker, I would the best way for me, a good way to cook basmati rice, if you want a little bit of flavour in the boiling water that you have, put some a stock cube in there to flavour the rice, and then leave it to boil for about 7 to 10 minutes. Then turn the pan completely off. Yeah. Either put the tin foil and close the lid tightly and let it steam in the little bit of water that's left at the bottom of the pan there. And if you leave that for 10-15 minutes, it will be lovely and fluffy. All the water has dissipated, and there you have a lovely flavoured rice. Okay, so there you go, Pam, who is already washing the rice. So we'll have to have a rice masterclass. Pam, are you joining us at Flavours of India? I'm sure Mama Anila will have some tips. Definitely, I think they would. I think they'll give you a great way to cook rice there. Yes, that looks really nice, actually, Carl. That event, it looks really tasty.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't shown that already, as given that we're talking about food. We talk mainly about food and not about wine this morning, but there you go. That's on the 17th of this month with Mama Anila at Flavours of India. Look how beautifully that basmati rice is cooked there. That is fluffy. Perfect.
Isn't it?
Yeah, she's done a great job. Then she makes her own cheese there with the sag paneer. That cheese made on site there. So really looking forward to that on the 17th, where we'll also be doing a bit of filming. Okay, she already washes the rice. A lot of comments to come in. That rice has prompted more commenting.
It's great, this.
We've moved on from crab sticks and hot dogs to rice. And what have we got? Expensive dried fruit and Pete's prawns. Armação de pera, and now on sitio agradável, says Mr. S there. And rice cookers are great. Yeah, rice cooker. Elephant brand, says Pete as well. Maybe that's something you could do, Pam. They are great. However, if without, use the one thumb knuckle method. Yeah, my mum just told me just use the first one, the first part of your finger. That's enough water to cook your rice in. Cooking your catch by the shore. They sound an alarm at Fusetta when the catch comes in, and there are so many great restaurants with the catch grilled in the harbour. Oh, sounds
so good.
The bacalhau is cut into pieces and wrapped in a lot of cling film. Oh, I see. That's when
we're travelling back to the UK.
If I was a customs official and I opened someone's case up and there are lots of little packages wrapped in cling film, you're going into that special room, aren't you?
The gloves on.
Well sussed, mate. I've been looked at. Oh, what's Bang Andy been up to on YouTube? He's looked at everything out. All right. Okay. He's got maybe a strike there. I never wash the rice, and it turns out well every time. Well, maybe that's because it's old rice. Apparently, that's what my mum also told me that. The younger the rice, the more starchy it is. And that's what the Chinese like to have a big, they like to store rice in a big ceramic pot and keep it, because the longer you keep it, the more the starch naturally drops off and leaves the dust in the bottom of the container. So old rice is best to make it more fluffy there. And Pam says, I can do the basmati rice. It's just the others like Carolina type I don't bother with anymore. To be honest, I don't even have rice that much. So she doesn't care anyway. All right, if you're going to put anything in risotto, try beurre. That's a nice touch. I like that. Beurre on your rice and your seafood dishes. Beurre does add a touch of sweetness and a lovely aromatic flavor, because there's so many herbs in beurre. They come out in the cooking there. I've got a little bag of beurre herbs from when we visited the factory, again with Philomena. Okay,
nice.
A few minutes to go. I just want to very quickly give you the link to an article that Antonio F. has very kindly shared with us. These are from our GMP VIP. Here's an article, he says, in Portuguese, but translated by most browsers, I guess, depicting 21 Portuguese wines launched in 2023, costing from €8 to 267 euros. So there you go, the 21 wines between 23 and 24. I will give you the link for that in the chat for those who might like to take a look at that. Let me have a quick scroll down. Yeah, as you say, it's in Portuguese. But has anyone tried any of these? A nice label there. Is that the 267 euro one? I don't know if you've tried any of these. What are you drinking at the moment? What's your preferred Portuguese wine, Owen, if anything?
At the minute, it hasn't been a wine. It's been mainly some of the beers from Letra. They're coming out with some lovely sour beers at the moment and fruity ones as well. So although I have limited myself to, would you believe, a pint a night, but I'm trying something different each time I go in. But I have a nice break now between now and the 18th. So perhaps I will go out and purchase a 2019 bottle of wine and journey on Monday evening.
Oh, please do. It'd be great if you could do that. I'm loving the photography in this article. Aren't these beautiful bottles?
Aren't they? Aren't they just?
What's that one? Pay de Mai, Mother's Feet wine. Not sure if I like the sound of that, but Mirabilis. These are beautiful bottles. So let me just put the link to that into the chat. Also want to pop over to, I did invite James from the Anson Brewery to join us this morning. When you come down this way, Owen, let's go to the brewery over there at Lloyd, where it's very beautiful, and it has that same, what is it? It's a bit hipster, isn't it, this craft beer thing? A lot of the interiors are very tastefully done, and you can see that here.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
This is beautiful, and these are their beers here, the Anson Beer Core Range, which, I mean, it's like they're Anson beers because they're handsome to look at, but it's like and some beer. Pale ale, wheat light, a stout they've got there, which I know you'll like. An Irish red ale. I don't know what that is, but these are all very nicely priced as well, at around between €3.5 and €4. IPA, of course, a new lager, a Belgian monk, and an Anson number 5 real ale there. Look at all these. The styling is beautiful, isn't it?
I like it. I really do. And I love the labels as well, because they maintain the tiled sort of Portuguese theme as well.
Yeah. Well, really talking of which, I have got, so that's the Anson Brewery. I'll also put the link to that into the chat this morning. If you're in Lloyd, which looks to me like it's turning into another one of these sort of gourmet foodie towns. Then there's a lot of it about here in Portugal at the moment. And that's another one, Lloyd. Nice little town, famous for its dinosaurs, where we celebrated Mrs. M's birthday recently. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, I've got a little video to play. Talking of people who honour the azulejo and the Portuguese tiling. I showed this bottle of olive oil yesterday. That's what it is. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's an olive oil. It looks like a cologne. And we'll finish today with a video from these guys, Pomar de Marialva, seeing the produce in the orchard here in Portugal, because that's what it's all about. We live in such a great country for food and wine, so much so that we've been able to talk about it for an hour effortlessly and with our mouths watering, and mainly about the food and not even the wine this morning. So thank you very much, Owen. I'm looking forward to your company next Monday when we have this man.
Yay! It'll be great to see the Austin brothers again. It'd be great to be on screen.
Beautiful little soul, isn't he? He really is. So we'll see him and the Austins. I think Johnny Cocktail's joining us. Hopefully Frank will be there. We can have some fun Monday evening at 8 o'clock. Wines from 2019. So let's finish this morning with a trip to the orchards of the Silver Coast. Mate, have a great day.
Thank you so much everybody
for being here. Nice big round of applause for you. And we'll see you in the residency on the first Wednesday of February. And we'll be talking more about food then. Thanks, everybody, for your contributions this morning. It's been a lot of fun. Take care. Have a good day. And bye for now. Maybe see you at the meetup. Ciao, ciao.
Portugal.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GuMPer morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GuMPer.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, GuMPers.